I just would like to thank the creator, and I'd like to thank the land and our ancestors, past, present, and future. And we are here on Algonquin and Wasanic Coast Salish territories, and just want to open our hearts and connect today and be able to access the wisdom from the land, from our ancestors, from our family lines, from the animal kingdom, the plants, and a huge welcome to everyone. So Megan, I don't know if you want to introduce the song, or do you want to sing the song and then share the song after?
Sure, I'll start singing. Oh, hey, oh, hey, oh.
Whoa, hey, ho, hey, hey.
I love you. Oh, oh, sorry for the feedback. It's hard to sing and drum on virtual. So that was a song that the melody came to me every time I was down at the water. And then a dear friend of ours, Lindsay Delarone, she's Mohawk from Ganawage, where you grew up, Kikila. She was the Indigenous artist in residence here, and she wanted to make us as Indigenous people more visible in art and theater. And so we were doing performances at a theater, the Belfry Theater. But when COVID hit, that couldn't happen anymore. So we decided to start doing land-based performances. And so I had a vision of us singing to a waterfall. I'm really connected to waterfalls, and I didn't know what that was about. So I did some research, and you know, what I found out from that is there's so much power in a waterfall. It's so cleansing and healing. And a lot of us use water in our ceremonies. And like what our ancestors have always known is that they've now scientifically proven that it helps with depression and anxiety, the negative ions that it gives out. and helps with stress. So I had this vision of us singing at a waterfall. And then so my father, he's from the East Coast, and I read about this waterfall called the Sharadre Falls, and it's in Algonquin territory. And what it was that it was a meeting place for nations to gather. So the Mohawk, the Mi'kmaq, Anishinaabe, the Ojibwe would all actually put their weapons down and paddle over. And then a lot of governance would happen at this waterfall because it was such a powerful, significant site. So yeah, it was funny when I was texting Danny about the song, I just said, oh, the Gathering of Nations Peace Water Song, but that's not actually its name. So when I got together with the women, Danielle and a couple of other of Nakoa, that's my daughter, her aunties, I asked if people could bring their language forward. And so in that song, there's 5 different languages, words around waterfall, river, I love you, and peace. And it's in Cree, Helkaminam, which is Danielle's language from the Cowichan people, and Mi'kmaq, which is my language, and in Michif, which is Métis, which is the mixture of French and Cree, and the 5th is Mohawk. So I thought it was a good song to sing today. Well, one, because I composed it so I don't have to ask permission to share it, which is why you can record it, because other songs we can't. Yeah. It's too sacred. And just to honor that we are gathering all nations together today. So thank you, Balalan.
Kia ora. Thank you, Megan. Thank you, Danielle. It's very beautiful. Tēnā koutou katoa, nā mihi mohare mai ke te hui e te rānei. Nā mihi kia koutou mō tō koutou manakitanga me tō koutou aroha i te kaupapa te reo o te whenua. Ko nā te rangi, ko te rana wera, hanene o ku tipuna. Ki te taha toko mama, ko mātoto te waka. Ko mawa te maunga, ko te awa nui te moana, ko nā te rangi te iwi, ko fok te whānau, ko rua hini te tangata. Nō rewa, ko Lewis Williams aho. A warm welcome. I'm really aware that my kāko in the first year of Te Reo Māori, Chrissy, is actually sitting there. And I just have a go. For me, the Te Reo Māori is so, my language is so important. But I just simply, what I tried to tell you was thank you for coming and for caring, and for your caring for this really important kaupapa or topic for today, which is te reo o te whenua, or the language of the land, however you feel or think that or perceive that to be. So I'm going to do some quick introductions, and I will do this by way of whakapapa. So in Te Ao Māori, everything has a whakapapa. There's always something that comes from something else, or something, whatever came before that, the conditions that birthed the conditions that we have now, or the whakapapa of our genealogy or our relationships. So in my introductions, I think the person I actually first knew here was Kia Maya. And so Kia Maya, and I share whakapapa through our hapu, to Kairangi. And I think I've known you for about 10 years now. And Kia Maya she has a lot of aroha, love for people and for te tao, the environment and the cosmos. She has always been, I grew up away from my iwi, and Kia Maya has always been warm and inviting to me, and that's really meant a lot to me, Kia Maya. I've never said that to you, but it's meant a lot to me. And she has a wonderful, but, you know, I know that for Kia Mai, Te Ao Māori is always ever deepening your journey. You're always committed to walking that journey. And she has a wonderful blend of Mataranga Māori or traditional Māori knowledge and Western knowledge, environmental science. And so there's a lot more I could say, but I'm really aware of time, so I will keep going. But ngā mihi. The second person I think was Danielle, and Danielle, yes, you're right. We go back. It was 2013, in fact. And so Danielle, she's of the Cowichan nations, and I mean you can introduce yourself a lot better than me, but she has a wonderful spirituality and just a sensibility for human and the unfolding of the cosmos and just caring for all of creation. And so we've walked together for 8 years now. It's really great. And so she's academic staff at Vancouver Island University and also a board member of the Alliance for Intergenerational Resilience. And then the next person was Kikila. And so Kikila and Kikila Perrin, we've known each other for maybe four years now. And so Kikila is interesting, but you hail from the east, now you live in the west. And is just a board member of her, and I was really lucky when Kikila stepped forward and offered to work with her. And he has a wonderful academic mind, but also a heart and a really good practitioner of this work. Welcome, Kikila. And the next person, actually, I think, was Chrissy. And so Chrissy is actually Chrissy Nuku, who is Ngātarangi Nui and also Tūwhare Toa for your mum. But Chrissy was my kāko. She's wonderful, a lot of expertise in Te Reo Māori, and also has knowledge. He lived in Canada for some time, and is also very growing knowledge on the Rongoa Māori as well. And then I think Hemi. So I met you, I'm not sure, but maybe 2 or 3 years ago, but more so in the last year. It's been really great getting to know you. Hemi he's very low-key, but he knows an awful lot, and he's from Aotearoa, iwi, and also Ngātarangi. So Ngātarangi, no, okay, I will zip that there. I'll let you introduce yourself. But he's wonderful expertise in the Māori world and Te Reo Māori and Moteatea traditional things. So just welcome, and it's great that you are here. And then I think Megan, I met you next, and Megan is you're a Mi'kmaq, and also of settler ancestry. I can't quite remember which, but I was really taken when Danielle said that you were working on the whole idea of developing a medicine garden, and and how you were working with both Jay and Emily to do that. And I was just really taken by that, your commitment to that, and in the intergenerational work that you do. And Emily and Jay, I've only just met you today, and you both sent through your bios. Jay, the fact that your whakapapa, your ancestry, comes from Saskatchewan, is Cree. So I lived in Saskatchewan for a while, and I'm looking forward to posting more about your bio up after we post the video. But it's wonderful to see your growing and your deepening knowledge in this area. And Emily, welcome, Emily. And you're studying still at high school, understand you have a strong interest in the sciences. And I can't pronounce the name of the people that you're from. Tanishim? Yeah, sorry, yeah. But you're right up there. Your people are right up there in northwest BC. I had a look on the map. I think almost bordering Alaska. So a warm welcome to everyone. I'm going to stop talking a minute because I really want us to get into our panel. The only other thing I want to say is that this, in answering the question, what does the language of the land, how does the language of the land, what does it mean to me, or how does it speak to me? This particular panel has taken a bit of a traditional medicine bent, or rongo Māori bent, because our panelists all have most of us have an interest in medicines, whether that be plant or whether that be the medicine of song, or of language, or the medicine of the land. And there's in Te Ao Māori there's a word called whakarongo, and that means to listen, but actually its deeper meaning is to listen with all one's senses, all one's being. So I think that is very much about what this panel is about today. So without any, having said that, I would like to get us started. So our Aotearoa whānau are going first. So Chrissy, I'll hand it over to you. Kia ora.
Kia ora no tātou. I'm just going to screen share. We can see that good?
Aye.
Okay. Ko te pute more te weu te aka te rea. Ko te wau nui te kune te whete kore te po. Ki nā tangata Māori nā rangi rawa ko papa. Ko tēnei te timatanga o te ao. Ko tēnei te timatanga o te ao. Kia ora mai tātou.
Kia ora.
He karakia, he waiata, tēnei. This is a prayer and also the expression of the beginning of the universe. It's really beautiful because I think in it talks about also not only the beginning of the universe, but how a plant grows. It also talks about sound vibration. So I think everything in rongoa, as Lewis was saying, can whakapapa back to this, or everything in creation. So I just thought I'll open up with that. We already done our introductions. So this is my pepeha. E te taha o tōku māma, ko hikurangi, te maunga, ko waiapu te awa. Ko horauta te waka, ko Ngāti Porou te iwi, ko te aitanga materoa, te hapu, ko materoa te marae. On my mother's side, she's from the East Coast. Her mountain is, our mountain on that side is Hikurangi, our waka, horauta, our iwi, our tribe, Ngāti Porou, and our hapu, our sub-tribe, te aitanga materoa. I te taha o tōku papa on my father's side, ko maua o te maunga, ko tauranga te moana, ko ngai te rangi me ngā tirangi nui ngā iwi, ko Ngāti Hangarau te hapu, ko Hangarau te marae. On my father's side, our maunga is Mauau, our moana is tauranga, our iwi are ngai te rangi e ngā tirangi nui, our hapu, our sub-tribe is Ngāti Hangarau. he tangata whenua hau. I am tangata, a person, and whenua, land. I'm a person of the land. So I sort of just wanted to take my kōrero into this pepeha, which I'll go back into, but also just he mihi kia koutou. I really love Canada from the time that I done exchange over there in the Nisga'a Nation, and that was really special. I done a student exchange for 3 months and hung out in Gitwinshil, but I still can't pronounce it properly. And they're very, very beautiful people there. So I feel a strong affinity to Canada, very close to my heart, and made lifelong relationships there. So ngā mihi kia koutou o kānata. Being there actually was just like being at home, so it wasn't really too much difference. And the way that the people, the Nisga'a people viewed, their worldview was similar to my own people. And today I'd just like to share a little bit of our worldview from a Māori perspective. So just going back to my pepeha, pepeha comes from the kupu peha peha, which means to be proud of. And this is how our tribal structures work when I was speaking about it. So in the middle, we have the whenua, which is the land, or placenta. And probably like your language, our language has multiple meanings for one word sometimes. And then from the whenua, the mother is hapu, pregnant, also sub-tribe. So Ngāti Hangarau is my hapu. And whānau, to be born, or your family. And then a iwi, which is derived from the word ko iwi, which means bones, and iwi meaning tribe. And then after you pass, you return back to the whenua. So just even in this introductory structure shows how connected we are from birth back into death when that cycle begins again. You're born in your placenta and your whenua, which often for us when we have our babies, we bury the whenua or the placenta back into the land. And so this is just a perspective of our tipuna, of the cyclic thinking that they had, letting the individual know where they place in the world and their connectedness to the whenua. So the language of the land is actually the language of yourself. You know what I'm saying? I'm very passionate about our reo, our language, te reo Māori, because it is a direct reflection of the taio, of the environment. And you see the metaphors in the language, the more and more that you learn it. Even in this kupu here, tangata whenua, person of the land. In the first part we have tā, which is comes from the word tāmoko, the markings, indigenous markings or tattoos, ngā, plural, and then tā again. So it's that repetition of peoples continuing that DNA, that tā imprint multiple times and on again. Other such kupu, moko puna, moko, tāmoko, the markings that show your lineage in tattoo form, and puna, which is like a pond or a reflection. So moko puna, rather than just meaning grandchild, is the reflection of one's own moko, of one's own
Wow.
whakapapa, genealogy and lineage. And in that we see how our tipino, our ancestors thought, and how our language reflects the environment. So the language of the land is not only of the person, but in the way they spoke in a really close relationship. I won't go on too much because I really am tino kaingaka, very passionate about this kaupapa, but I'll just share a little story because I think people learn a lot through stories, and I'll give you the short and condensed version. So our creation story, like the waiata I shared at the beginning, it started with Rangi and Papa. This is the shortened version, where Rangi and Papa were joined, and in between them were some 72 tamariki, atua Māori, gods and goddesses. Rangi Nui being the Sky Father, and Papa Tuanuku being the Earth Mother. They were joined, such was the depth of their love for one another. So they clung to one another, but their tamariki couldn't move. Anyway, through a lot of heated discussions, one of their tamariki, Tāne Mahuta, god of the forest or the ngahere, where we collect our rongoa or our plant medicines from, Tāne Mahuta separated them. This is really the condensed version. So his parents needed clothing, and so first he set about to clothe his father, adorning him with whetū and whetua stars, and beautifying him. This is actually Pleiades or Matariki, which has another kōrero. There's a lot of side stories from this one main story. And then he went about to adorn his mother, because she was barren, Papa Tuanuku. And so he went about adorning her with a beautiful cloak of korowai, is the word for cloak. Sorry, I'm very bilingual, so I always flip back in between my native language and English. And he adorns his mother with, all of this beautiful foliage and trees. And the last rako or tree that he gives her is called kawakawa. And we see that it's in the shape of a heart. Such was her grief for her man, for Ranginui, Sky Father, that her heart was just absolutely shattered. And so he gifted kawakawa to his mother in the shape of a heart to aid her in that depth of grief, to help heal her. And kawakawa is a really beautiful, strong plant that's used here. And in the stories, why I share the stories is that it is a part of the language of the land. And in those stories, we come to know so from that, it was for healing Papa Tuanuku, Earth Mother's heart. Also, it's an indication that this particular rako here is really great to give those that are in a deep grief. When you're just in that, when you've lost someone or there's been a big relationship breakup and the heart just feels very, what we would say is mamai or broken. Kawakawa has a lot of medicinal purposes, but also the spiritual aid of kawakawa. We get that knowledge from knowing our pūrākau, like that one there. So the language of the land, I was hard for me to sort of like separate it out because it's just the way of being and slowly learning. And I'll just finish ka oti taku kōrero I tēnei. Whatu ngaro te tangata, toitu te whenua, which is a whakatauki or proverb from here in Aotearoa. Man will die, but the land remains. And I think when you acknowledge that there is a language of the land or reo of the whenua, and you acknowledge your connection to it, you have an innate responsibility to ensure that that land remains beautiful for future generations. When I was in Canada, I heard a really a beautiful whakatauki proverb over there. I'm not sure what you called proverb, was all of my relations. And I think that this is a tone or a heartbeat that runs throughout all Indigenous peoples, and perhaps my kōrero or the story of the tipuna of our ancestors resonated with you also. Koina taku kōrero, thank you very much. Yeah. Kia ora, ngā mihi kia koutou.
Kia ora, Chrissy. Thank you. It's very beautiful. It's a lot of depth in that. We'll keep going, but there was so much in that. Thank you. Ngā mihi. Kia mai.
Kia ora. I will share a very short screen as well. Okay, is everyone seeing that one?
Aye.
Ka pai. So I've put together a short presentation of my and Hemi as well, our experiencing language of the land. And ngā mihi kia koe, Chrissy, that was beautiful, and it is the perfect way to start our Aotearoa kōrero from the beginning of time. So that's awesome. So I'm not going to talk about this image because there's a huge story behind that as well, but those are taiaha, which are weapons of ngaitirangi. This was about ensuring our authority over our lands when someone else was trying to come into our land. So that was a bit of a message in that photo. Oh, how do I change the next slide? Sorry. Ko waio, like Chrissy, I have a pepeha that connects me to my whenua and my ancestors. So this is basically my genealogy. Ko mātātua tōku waka, ko mauao tōku maunga, ko tauranga tōku moana, ko ngaitirangi tōku iwi, ko ngai tūkairangi me Ngāti Tapu oku hapu, ko honghonga toro, me wharero, me waikari oku marae, no tauranga moana hau, ko au ko te moana ko au, ko kia mai Alice tōku ingoa, no reira tēnā koutou katoa. So, like Chrissy has done also, Mātātua is the waka that our tribe arrived to Aotearoa in, and we settled in Tauranga Moana, acknowledging Mauao, which is in the picture there, in the top left. That's Mauao, our maunga that we refer to. The moana around that maunga is Tauranga Moana. This is on my father's side, by the way. I didn't put my mum's lineage in here, which is really terrible of me. So Ngaitirangi is my tribe, and my two sub-tribes, sorry, Tūkairangi and Ngāti Tapu, and Honghonga Toro, Wharero and Waikari are the marae, which are like your big houses. Our whare, look, I'm very bilingual too, sorry, I'm trying to translate as I go. So those are our houses that our sub-tribes connect to and follow our tikanga, our traditions in. And where are we? Ko te moana, ko au ko te moana. I'm part of the Moana and the Moana is me, so we're one and the same. Being a coastal people, we connect very strongly to our oceans. And in saying that, we also connect to you through our ocean. So that's what connects us, what I believe. Yes, so tēnā koutou. Would you like to do your... Have I? Yeah. Just wanted to do a big mihi, an acknowledgement to some of the whānau that Hemi and I also met in 2019. We had an opportunity to go to Wagisla, Bella Bella, which is, I don't know, put your hand up if you know where that is. It's a very small, isolated island off the coast of Vancouver. And as we also felt a really strong love and connection with the people there, and the world views are very, very similar. Our connecting with our environment is the same. And yeah, and even hearing your waiata from you, Megan and Danielle, it gave me goosebumps. So I could feel your ancestors in the room there. It was really, really awesome to hear that again, to hear Indigenous song from your side of the world. So yes, we've also made some really lifetime friends over there, and we were hoping to go back last year, but lockdown stopped that happening. And I also have an auntie on Vancouver Island, actually. I managed to visit there for all of maybe one day when we were over there. So yeah, really keen to meet you all in person one day. Hopefully that happens. Did you want to say something? Okay, this is how I've been experiencing language of the land. I'm going to tell you a little story. And this is, well, my day job has been environmental research, and because of my love for our Te Ao Māori worldview, I've joined a Māori research group, and we incorporate mātauranga Māori in all of our research environmentally. And in this project, we've been using our Indigenous knowledge to find better ways to catch Asian paddle crabs, which is an invasive species that we have here in Tauranga Moana. And so we look to our traditional knowledge and ways of catching things. And this is my Auntie Christina there. She is fearless kuia, and most of the tamariki, the kids, are afraid of her. And she knows this, but when you get her with harakeke, which is a form of rongoa hair, this plant we have here, she's a completely different person. She's loving, sharing, it's just amazing. And she explains the rongoa of harakeke in a different way that really made me understand the holistic ways of how rongoa works. So it has that, just touching it and feeling it has that calming, healing sensation, and it changes your whole āhua, your way, if you like. I'm using Māori words again, trying to explain that clearer. So through Auntie, I started to learn to listen to different ways. There's many forms of rongoa, so we have the medicinal properties. So harakeke has a lot of healing properties. I'm not a rongoa expert, so don't quote me on this kōrero with rongoa, but yeah, the healing properties of harakeke has many forms, so touching it, being around it, and all of those things. Something that Auntie was explaining to us is that when you weave a wahakura, which is a baby basket. The babies sleep in this basket. It's like a crib. It's big enough to fit the baby in, and they sleep in the harakeke woven basket called the wahakura. And Auntie says that the properties of the harakeke calms the baby so that he can sleep nicely and calm enough to settle down and have a good sleep. So that is something that we tried to utilize with trapping these Asian paddle crabs, and we actually found that because this Asian paddle crab is really aggressive, and it outcompetes our native crabs. So we were looking at this method to use, and the Asian paddle crab tended to settle down in the baskets that we were making as traps. So that was something that we wanted to pursue. So we'll be doing more of that over the next couple of months. And saying that as well, there are many forms of language as well. So with this, I'm talking about the 6 senses. So we see it, we feel it, we smell it, we taste it. We're hoping to taste the crabs when we catch them, because apparently we can eat them as well. So that's going to be our eradication method for managing the population of these crabs. And we hear it. We're hearing it from the auntie, and she's sharing her knowledge and what she learnt from her mum, which is my nanny Riri Te Whara, and she was an expert weaver and well-known weaver way back. I wish I had that same skill myself, but I'm still learning. I'm not a fast learner with the raranga, but I'm trying. So learning the language of the land for me is listening to the environment and our people, and listening through all of those lenses. And some people listen through the 6th sense as well, the spiritual sense. And I'm feeling it right now, actually. I just picked up my pounamu and it's really hot. Yeah, so I must be going on the right track. Yeah, it's really warm. So, and the goosebumps I felt when I heard your song, ladies, I think that's my 6th sense as well. So listening and watching those tohu, or being more aware of the message we get from a whole holistic way of thinking. And I wanted to acknowledge that intergenerational knowledge by putting this picture up. This is one of our friends' daughters here, sitting with Aunt Christina, and my own kids saw a whole different nanny that day. Nanny Christina was lovely, so that really is her rongoa, and I can't thank her enough for sharing her time with us. I actually went and cleaned up her harakeke patch, which is in her garden, and she was baking for us. She was making cups of tea. I couldn't believe it. Usually I was like, what do you guys want? So she's really, really happy to share that kind of knowledge, which is awesome. Do you have anything to add? I'm going to go to the next slide. This here is Hemi taking how many children? 40 children into the ngahere, learning about Tane Mahuta's children, and one of Tane's Kodi. Oh, this was a Kodi patch actually, with Kodi trees, which are a threatened, endangered tree we have here in New Zealand, in Aotearoa. So we take our kids there to learn about those trees in our ngahere, and to learn how important they are and how we all need to protect them. So passing on that the knowledge that we have and that we've learnt from our ancestors is really important to us. So we always incorporate what we're doing with our future generations, because they are the next kaitiaki, the next guardians after us, and hopefully they do a much better job than we have as people on this planet. Yeah, so with a holistic way of thinking through whakapapa and connectivity, we need to be able to share this language, all of these languages, with our next generation. So reconnecting them with the whenua and with the moana. And all of that to me is rongoa. So diving into the ocean is rongoa for me. And I absolutely know it is for these kids, because they love the moana. It's unbelievable. The grumpiest child will come out smiling. Yeah, so experiencing language of the land is learning to listen to all of the different messages our environment has to tell us, and to understand our past, our current existence, and our future. So I've got a couple of points in there around climate change, just a little bit that I've been thinking about a lot lately. Maramataka, and making sure we're observing those changes we're having in the environment. Our climate is changing a lot. So we have maramataka as a old form of knowledge in Māori, which is the calendar and the change of seasons. So maramataka tells us when to go fishing, what types of animals are around at certain times of the year, when to plant the best times to plant different trees or vegetables and gardening things. So maramataka has always been a Māori guide for us. And if we are going to be able to keep using a maramataka, we need to start observing more and listening to what's happening in our environment to better understand climate change. So with rising temperatures and sea levels, everything's going to change. So we need to be able to understand maramataka better into the future. So that connects me back to those 6 senses, listening to all of those things, what we're seeing, feeling, smelling, tasting, hearing. So all of those things we need to rebuild or update our form of maramataka. Yes, I'm sure Hemi has some closing statements here. So that's my view and experience from Language of the Land. I'm very passionate about the environment and looking after our moana and our whenua, our ngahere, and sharing that with our people, which is also looking after our people.
Kia ora.
Me.
Kia ora, kia mai. Thank you. Hear me?
Kia ora mai tātou. Tutahi me kana ki a koe Chrissy. Tupira mai ana tō tātou kaupapa kōrero mo te ao Māori te rokohanga tēnā koe te rangatira. O tērā kia mai hoki tana tupiratanga me nei ngā whakamarama o nei mahi tēnā koutou. And I'd like to say another kia ora, especially with the flashbacks back to Bella Bella and the big house opening to all our whānau from Canada. Tēnā koutou was really quite extraordinary for us. And one of the extraordinary things for the two of us was also experiencing the reo of Canada, so the language of Canada in a natural sense. We got to meet northern humpback whales and hear the sound of hummingbirds and hear all these other types of language experiences as well as people experiences that are outside our norms. So big kia ora to everybody over there. And hopefully can share some things that might be helpful with this wider taupapa. Noea tohu reo. no ngā hau, no ngā hau ora rua e hau mai nei, no ngā manu, no ngā manu ti ori ori he pāhara kiki, no ngā pū, no ngā pūrahau i te wā tapu nui a tāne, no ngā wai, no ngā wai pūa wau e rere te awa ki te moana, e ngunguru nei. O i te ao, i te pō, i te pō, i te ao, no reira tohu reo. Tēnā koutou. Kia ora everybody. There was a small waiata, and the waiata describes these things. It asks, where does our language come from? For us as Māori, our language comes from the environment. And it says, from where is our language? In the first part, it says that our language comes from the winds. They cleanse us each day. Our language comes from the birds. They lullaby in the flax plant or the harakeke, which is so important to us and a symbol of our whānau, of our family. And our language comes from the great trees in the forest of Tāne Mahuta. And our language comes from the waters that flow from free-flowing rivers and crash and storm into the harbour and into the ocean. And our language comes from the day and the night, and from the dark and the light. And it finishes no reira tōku reo, and our language comes from all of those things. So big kia ora to our ladies too for sharing with you and everybody about the connection that we have, all of us do, to our environment and the importance of that connection with our reo and our language and our various languages and what we're trying to do in order to uphold them. And as a short background, for probably 50 years ago, which is before most of you were probably born, our language was in dire straits. There were maybe 10% of our people could speak our own language, and they had the powers that be had stated that they thought Māori is a dying language and would be gone by this stage. But we stand strong, and we did so back then and started a hikoi, a journey of ourselves and our reconnaissance of our language. Over the last 50 years, we have grown, and you may know this already, and developed early childhood immersion centres, and which began a huge growth in terms of having immersion primary school, intermediate, middle age, and high school, and on to tertiary. So ngā mihi nunui anō kia koe, Chrissy. I just saying kia ora to Chrissy. She works in one of our Māori tertiary institutes that carries a large portion of it with our language and recovering our language as well. And she was also mine Kimai's young son. She was his teacher and his teacher too when he was in early childhood. So a big kia ora. All of these initiatives and things, I thought it might be interesting for everybody if I talk a little bit about the different levels of reo, our language that we have, and what a huge part of that same conditioning has led us to having a gap in generations to be able to transfer and pass on that knowledge, or even to know it themselves. And that's been a part of the repercussions of colonisation for us. But in addition to that comes our drive and our aspiration to recover and to grow. And as we have been doing so, we've been learning a lot about how we pass it on, all part of that process, about intricacies of the languages of our language, and the importance for us to maintain our autonomy as tribal entities, with our own dialects and language being promoted within the work that we do, and the different levels of language that sit within our culture. And I would imagine the same for you guys as well. We have language that applies to when we have formal ceremony and settings and prayer and greetings and so on. And some of that language, as time goes through, along with the lack of people that always or had traditionally carried that knowledge, then the language itself is also being lost. And we're in recovery in terms of bringing back language that belongs to a family, or belongs to a tribe, or maybe belongs to everybody. And it's been part of an important part for us at home. For our 2 cents, for our portion of trying to assist in bringing back and recovering and in empowering that passing on of knowledge, understanding for us knows that our language is an integral part of our culture, and recovering our culture is an integral part of our teaching, our way of teaching. You know, you guys might talk pedagogies and epistemologies. Well, our way of thinking and our way of teaching is also an important part of how we move forward, so that we're not necessarily doing it in a purely academic sense. For one thing, when as Kia Maya and Chrissy have sort of alluded to, using our entire senses to recover ourselves and our language. It also means that with it comes senses of identity. We call it tūranga waiwai when we say our feet are entrenched in a particular place and we belong there. Our ancestors may have lived here for 1,000 years, so we know we belong there, but with it comes the names of our rocks and our trees and our mountains that are an integral part of who we are and how we sing and where we go and where we belong. So an extra bit of encouragement towards Emily and Jaden, and especially in terms, it's been important for us to focus and to work with our younger generations. And our language looks like things that we do in terms of our fun when we get outside and when we get involved with our environment. It looks like our truer names for those different species and all those types of things that we might be looking at, especially with a deeper agenda to grow young Indigenous conservationists and look after our environment and that reciprocation with our home. It looks like for us, we express things in haka and waiata, and with the rongoa sits, or rather the healing sits within not just the plants and mihi nuni kia kōrua, ke whakahua ki tēnā kaupapa mo ngā rongoa. You know, we have many medicinal plants, but the medicine for us includes our kids knowing that they are, and our medicine for us includes our practicing and caregiving of those places and those plants. A bit hard sometimes. We're a bit urbanised here in Tauranga Moana. So what used to be a lovely place of healing is now, you know, Woolworths or Pack and Save or something like that. But our healing also sits within our generations being active and keen. So I suppose it always goes back for our culture and yours too. I felt that when we were in Bella, the core of all of it goes back to aroha, true love for one another, and for our environment, and for our language and our cultures. And I think that's where the drive for intergenerational resilience actually sits. So we could go on all day, and we have 1,001 proverbs and sayings that really support all of what we're doing in terms of holding resilience. You know, we say that the seafaring rock stands staunch or stands strong against the centuries of waves and tides, and we must be the same. So kia kaha, kia maia, kia manoni to everybody. That means be strong and be hearty and be brave, and yeah, kia ora.
Kia ora. Thank you, Hemi. Thank you, whānau. Thank you, Chrissy. Kia mai. I mean, there was so many things in that. I think we'll just keep going at that point, but at this point, but that was a beautiful korero that you each gave, and it just so interwove, each korero interwove with the other. So many things, to see the harakeke laid out on the grass, and to see the kupu that you were talking about, Chrissy, and the intricacies in that. So yeah, ngā mihi nui. So you've Turtle Island, you've been waiting there, and you've had a lot coming in. So now I'm going to hand it over to you. I think Emily, you're going first. Yeah, and let me know if you want me to screen share or anything.
Unfortunately, I have nothing to screen share.
No pressure. Yeah.
But anywho, it took me a long time to figure out what language of land meant to me.
Can you lean a bit closer? Are you able to lean closer to your mic? I think we're going to have a bit of trouble hearing you.
A long time to figure out what language of land meant, because I unfortunately never learned my native language. So language of land to me is more what I can get from the land. And first got connected by doing medicine gardens. And this appealed to me because every time in my culture, I felt, I'm sure you say it's imposter, because I never knew what to do. But with the medicine garden, I felt I had a purpose. I was doing something, I could see it. And each time I did, I felt more connected. I was doing what my people have done for thousands of years. When I first did, I smudged my land before I did it to bless it. And at the time, I didn't know I was actually doing proper procedures without ever having heard of them. I believe this is like some elders talk about, is ingrained knowledge that is passed down instinctually. It's in your blood, you know it. And I think that's pretty good. Sorry, I just have notes here.
Take your time.
I feel when I was doing that, I realized I did not know all the history of the plants, and that's a real shame for doing something. And I feel not everyone connects every part of culture, and I think that's important. As long as you understand some part of it, you are connected. I was more or less drawn to the calmingness of it, and I really just could feel a sense of warmth and, purpose there. That's what I think I get from it, purpose. And I feel like it's my responsibility to preserve it and help cultivate it for future generations. And I don't know what else to talk about. I'm super sorry.
Is that good to stop there for now? Is that what you're saying? You're doing really well, and just to hear your experiences coming through, it's great. Yeah, and more might come to you later, and that's good too. Thank you for sharing that, Emily. And if more comes through later, then you can share again. See how you find it. Okay, now mihi. Okay, who's up next?
Hi, so I guess how I experience the language of the land is through listening to it. As Indigenous peoples, our language comes from the land, so we have words that are based on, like, you fish in this place, and it's based on the geography. Unfortunately, I didn't grow up in my territory, and that is a common experience and story of a lot of Indigenous peoples on Turtle Island. And the land is so vast that my position is a cultural continuity worker, and what that looks like is I have the best job in the world. I get to work with children and urban Indigenous children and youth in connecting with their culture, their community, their nation, their families. And so part of that looks like traveling to traditional territory, and there's something beautiful and transformational that happens when you see children put their feet on their territories. And then of course with COVID, that the travel stopped. And so I had been in other aspects of my life, I had been creating medicine gardens, and I thought that might be something good to bring to the community I was working with. So that's what I started doing. And I'm learning a lot from the plants. It's really beautiful to see, like, you have a relationship with the plant just like you do with a person or with an animal. And it grows over time. I have a lot of humility because there's a lot that I need to learn still. There's some plants I've worked with for a long time and I know, and then there's others that I don't. Because there's so many different nations of people that I work with, I would bring plants from their territory. So we got to learn about that together, and it was really beautiful learning from Emily and Jay, because they both have a passion and a gift for that. And I really do think that youth are our vision and our force, that the next generation, and they're going to keep things going and take care of the land. When I think about, like, for me, the Mi'kmaq creation story, there's 7 layers to it, and a lot of it is acknowledging the land. So it's like the sky, the giver of all life, and then the sun that brings the shadows, and which is our dark side and our characteristics. And then we have Glooskap, which is like a warrior figure, and then he meets his grandmother, grandmother Rock, and rocks, they have so many stories that they hold. They've been around forever. And then he meets his nephew, which is a wave, and then this is the shortened version as well. And then his mother comes from a leaf, and the dew and the leaf. So I guess it's all in our culture, is the language of the land, and how we are and with one another, and how we respond to the land, how we listen to the land. You kind of know you're on the right path when different things just start evolving naturally. So like what Emily was talking about, I said, let's plant and, get the pollinators back too, right? Because of what's going on with our bees. And then we started going, okay, well, let's acknowledge the territory and the land. And then, okay, well, let's smudge, which is like a cleansing ceremony to bless the land before we plant. And then from that, there was interest in learning language. So, I guess that's all I have to say right now.
Thank you. Thank you, Regan. That gives a beautiful picture that you've given us, or painted for us there. Thank you. Jay.
Hello. So one of my version of how I experience the language of the land is more like I love together and I love nature. I when I was young, I would always go for hikes. Sorry, my internet is a little unstable. When I was young, I would always go for hikes in the woods on the Galloping Goose, which is a old trail all through Victoria. I would always be in elementary school. I'd always be saving seeds from the ground. So my connection to the nature and gardening connects me to our ancestors, and so I feel that I'm really connected when I am in nature and surrounded by these beautiful plants and animals. And when I go for hikes, I always like to find a spot, sit down, and just stare into the open, look at the nature, listen to the birds, enjoy the scenery and the natural beauties of that Mother Nature has to offer us. At my school, I'm a member of the garden committee at my school, which is working on making a massive garden for our school for food in the cafeteria program. And I am also a member of the Colwood Community Garden. So there I work with herbs and sprout a whole bunch of trees for Indigenous programs and other environmental organizations like Habitat Acquisition Trust, where they go around restoring habitats and removing invasive plants. I grow a whole bunch of trees for them every year from seed. And every now and then I'm like walking down the road and I see the seed. I'm like, oh, I should save that seed. So I bring it to school, I plant it, or I bring it home, plant it at home, or I plant it at the garden. I'm always feeling like my connection to nature and the environment is important because most people don't see that nowadays. Most people in my school are just on their phones, Snapchat, all that technology-based stuff. And I don't have any Snapchat accounts. I'm more like phoneless. I'm more like, let's go outside. Let's enjoy the natural environment. Go down to the beach. Make some beautiful artwork out of the natural things like the driftwood and beach glass and beautiful stones. I always like to make memories out in the environment. I'm always visiting public gardens like Royal Roads, Japanese gardens, the Uvik gardens, Bushart gardens. Very nice gardens on Vancouver Island. And whenever I get the chance to go up island, I'm always visiting these national and provincial parks and just enjoying the scenery. I know that when I went to Tofino in Ucluelet, it was a whole new experience for me because all the nature and environmental woods up there is all different than what we have down in the southern coast of the island. There's different trees, different environment, like a whole different world almost, and it's on the same island. And I'm interested to connect to my native land in Saskatchewan and see what it's like there and experience what it's like to walk amongst the land there. And yeah, I also have lots of knowledge about the indigenous plants on the island. I'm always incorporating conifers into food. I have like a cedar muffin recipe, cedar cookies, even made my own cedar chai. It's chai tea, lovely, has cedar in it. And I'm always like trying to give away, like plant trees, give them away. Or one thing I've wanted to do is in Royal Bay, the big development. It's just a whole bunch of gravel and they're just building homes and clear cutting everything. They have these little trails and the hillsides and they plant a whole bunch of things that aren't indigenous and they end up dying. So what I wanted to do is like sprout a whole bunch of Douglas firs, most drought resistant, and go and plant them on the hillside and watch them grow. I'm also like, I'm in charge of the native plant garden at my community garden. So I'm like designing gardens for public spaces for people to enjoy. And yeah, that's me.
Thank you, Jay. I can feel you connecting to all the different moods and the different types of the land and the ocean and the bush, and it's kind of quite playful. Anyway, beautiful. Thank you very much for sharing your growing wisdom. That's wonderful. Danielle.
So much beautiful stories,
Yeah.
and I can feel the spirit of and the commitment and the passion towards the land and language. So it's really, I've been getting tingles all this time. So that's a good thing. And I just wanted to share a bit of our, let's see, oh, do I have? Yeah, so I just wanted to share, I don't know if you guys can see the Vancouver Island here. And so I wanted to show the territories of where we are located. And as you can see, Tsimshian's right at the very top with the Wet'suwet'en territory and the Haida, the Kwakiwak, bringing down to Vancouver Island where we are located, predominantly in the Victoria area. So this is the Coast Salish. And then moving forward, I don't think it actually, no, does it go? No, it doesn't go all the way over there, but I just wanted to show where we're located on Vancouver Island. And also connect to the Halkminam language. So the language from my mother's side is Halkminam. And I was raised by my great-grandmother, Helen Alphonse, and she only spoke Halkminam. So she had to teach herself how to speak English. But I wanted to show, this is from the First Voices website, which is about language revitalization that's happening here in Canada. And there's programs for everyone to learn their language. And on Halkminam, as you can see, I don't know if you guys can see, just how many communities that are spoken in Halkminam. And from my mother's side, I'm Cowichan. So just to give a broad perspective, and a lot of the elders that have spoken about the language and the land, before we didn't, because we didn't have the government before they colonialized the colonial piece, the language stopped where we in different parts of the land. So geographically, if we weren't able to use a word for the stream or the river or the place, a special mountain, that's when the territory ended and it moved into another nation. So that's how a lot of our knowledge of whose land is and where it belongs to different nations, of protecting and keeping the land, that's where we could tell when the different nations would take over from the different parts of the island. And I really wanted to speak about, when I was listening to everybody, there's so much importance about stories and about language. And language for me, I don't have the full Halkminam, but in my dreams, I get words. So words are passed down to me. Right when I was little, the word that we used in the song, Statlo, that came to me in a dream of the river. And I went to my grandmother and was talking to her, and I said, this kept coming up in my dream, Statlo. And so she was able to say, okay, well, that's what this means. And so in my dream time, that's when language comes up for me. And those are when I sit with the lessons about what my spirit is needing, because there's a big spiritual connection to how we connect, relate, have a relationship with the land. And so for the language and building my Snowaeth is our spirit. So by saying the words in our Halkminam language, that's helping my Snowaeth and helping me open that pathway to my ancestors. So I feel that it's recovering that and bringing it forward and really reclaiming it, because it's not prioritized within our government systems and education. So it's really trying to think about how to make it a priority in advocacy to support our rights and our culture. And through that waterfall song that Megan created, we went to the land, and we went to this place called Gold Stream, which is a place where the salmon. So the salmon come every year. They come back from the ocean and they come back to the Gold Stream, and there's this renewal that happens. And we went there, and a lot of the times it's a tourist destination. So a lot of tourists go there and it's a lot of taking of the land. And it's not reciprocal in the nature of how we give back to the land and how we talk to the land and how we give space and acknowledgement and respect to the land. So when we went there, we sang the song at the waterfall at Gold Stream. that was really powerful. And one of the things we wanted to do was give the language as well. And here, these words are in Sinchothan. So Goldstream is on Sinchothan, right? And we wanted to put the language back on the rocks in the land, back to the river, back to the land, so that we can really honor the time that we spend being on the land. And so that was, I think it's still gonna happen. I think Megan, I'm looking at Megan, but I think we always have this heart intention. And again, for me, it's a very spiritual place, and spiritual place that is that responsibility that I heard both Jaden and Emily and everyone speak to, actually, about that responsibility to how to care for Mother Earth, and also bring back some harmony and peace to her through bringing our language to life, bringing life to our Snowaeth, and helping her connect to who she is, connect to her words that are used for our medicines. My late grandmother taught me words to use for the river when I go for a cleansing. And she also talked to me about how I gather medicine and what that means when you talk to the plant before. It's like developing that relationship. And to connect to New Zealand, the first time I went to New Zealand, I went up to where Lewis used to live up north near Mitimiti, and they were singing a song, and the plants were moving. They were moving like when they were singing, and I was like, oh my gosh, the plants are moving. And they stopped once the singing was done. And that really awoke a lot of things in me, because it was about song too, the importance of song and how song is translated in with the land. And yeah, I think that's I'll sit with those things to share with the group. Haitchkasiam.
Kia ora, Danielle. Ngā mihi. Can you stop screen sharing? Just so,
yeah. I'm just trying to figure.
That was so powerful. And when you speak of your dream time and the words coming to you, and and of course I know Goldstream. I know where you're talking about the Sinchothan language, and so beautiful to be speaking or singing the language of the land back to her. There was so much water or spirit flowing through as you were giving your korero, for what you had to say. I'm Kikila. I don't want to put you on the spot, but you've come in here as an air person. Do you have any reflections that you would like to add? Any thoughts to what we've heard here today?
Kia ora, Elias. It doesn't feel so much like this is my space, but just to say really briefly, you all give folks like me hope in the ability to reconnect to what's been lost on our side as well. Because settlers like myself, we've been colonized for thousands of years, right? Like Christianity and things like the Roman Empire and what have you took us away from having a connection to our ancestral lands, and like through that we end up displacing all of your ancestors and you actively, right? But hearing that that words can come from dream time and from just being in the land, and maybe even just by allowing someone like myself to share this space and this time in a good way with all of you, that might help us start to, some folks like myself, learn to listen a little bit harder, not only to our dreaming but to the land, and to folks like you who clearly have the ways to access wisdom that we've lost, and that means a great deal for me to individually and as a member of a community of settlers who are a little bit little bit tired of displacing and ruining without ever being in relationship. So, you know, mi koe to everyone from Aotearoa, and you know, I don't know all the languages of all of my hosts in Turtle Island here, but you know, I squaishal siam hala to all of you. I really, this means a lot to me, and I appreciate the being a witness to this.
Kia ora, Kikila. I just want to say, of someone who is of Ngātarangi, but I'm also of settler ancestry. And I think that where you're speaking is also from a valid place, because you were speaking from a place of actually seeing the wisdom and the ways of being and the knowledge of people who are still Indigenous to place, and that's one of the points of having and of sharing, the sharing that's gone on today, so that this kaupapa, this knowledge can broaden out and more people listen to this kaupapa, because that is how the language of the land will come through more and more. So just, kia ora, thank you for sharing from your perspective too. Well, does anyone have any further thoughts or reflections? It's been so much shared here. I did have the thought to do another round. I don't know where people are at. But over time, we've got perhaps what we do now is just rewind down, but you may have some further thoughts and reflections you'd like to share as we close this panel for today. It's been very brave and courageous. And Emily and Jaden, in particular, want to thank you. You may feel that maybe you didn't have as much to say as you would have liked, but actually the words from each of you have been really powerful, and it's been a powerful testimony for all of us as we think, about intergenerational resilience and what our responsibilities are, and try and fulfill those. But anyway, this is just an opportunity for closing reflections. There's no particular order.
I'd just like to make more of a statement on strengthening resilience together. So we probably did that today just by connecting with each other. And I noted down a whakatauki saying from our Aotearoa whānau, nā tō raurau, nāku te raurau, ka ora ai te iwi. So with your basket of knowledge and with my basket of knowledge all together, our people will be well. So building our resilience in healing language, it has to be everything, right? Yeah, so let's put it all in the basket and get stronger together. That's my closing off. Kia ora. Thank you, everyone. It was great to hear from our rangatahi, Jaden, and it says Karine, but it's Megan, Emily and Jaden. Thank you.
Yeah. Kia ora, kia ora.
Your words are very powerful. It's great to hear from you.
Anyone else?
I might add just very briefly, Jaden, I hope to see you around. I actually work for Habitat Acquisition Trust, so there's a real good chance that our paths will cross in real life. It'd be lovely to meet you in person.
I just like to say thank you, everyone, for sharing their kōrero. It was a privilege to be a part of. Thank you, Lewis, for opening this space.
Oh, thank you.
I think one word that comes up for me strongly during this, just within myself, was sovereignty, and being with the land, eating from the land, listening to the land is our sovereign right as human beings, and reclaiming that is a powerful act in and of itself. So, and sharing it, really appreciated each and every single kōrero. So ngā mihi tino nui kia koutou, kia ora.
Kia ora, Chrissy. Okay, we seem to have lost Danielle. Okay. Okay. Any further reflections before I ask Hemi to say the closing karakia?
Just thank you for allowing me to be part of this. And I just know that my journey of plants is the beginning of my reclaiming my culture. I'm interested now in doing medicine and learning my language that I learned is actually self-Slavi.
Thank you. Thank you, Emily. It's been great to have you with us and a part of this.
And I just wanted to say that my heart is full and I have so much gratitude for all of you. So, Walalan, thank you.
Thank you.
I would like, it was nice to meet you all. It's nice to meet new people in the community and from the other side of the world. It's not often that I get to connect with people from other places other than Canada, basically. And it was nice for Megan to invite me to this. I absolutely enjoyed it. And yeah, thank you.
Kia ora. Thank you, Jaden. Thank you. I'm going to stop. I'll stop recording now. Okay, and before the karakia.